to ensure the return of the remaining deceased hostages in Gaza. We're now joined by Dr. Wael Awad. He is a Middle East affairs expert and he joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Dr. Awad, for joining us here on the programme. Now, Dr. Awad, it's been around 12 days since that ceasefire came into effect. Over 90 people have been killed since it was signed on October the 11th, and a reported 980 trucks have entered the Gaza Strip, far short of the 6,600 which were expected. Rafah has now been closed for 5 consecutive days. What does that say about the fragile nature of this ceasefire?
Thank you, Thomas. I think what is happening exactly is the situation that Israel wanted to extract the maximum leverage and concession from the Palestinian side without giving anything in return. Having said that, I would say that when you are demanding that you wanted the remaining part or the rest of the dead bodies of the Israelis held hostages with the Hamas, you need to give them the infrastructure equipment that they are able to dig and take the dead bodies out of it. So therefore, we see that now there is a special team has come from Egypt to start the digging in certain area where they can take out the bodies and finish this headache. Israel have been violating from day one this ceasefire, and because of lots of pressure also, and Prime Minister Netanyahu from his right-wing partners, especially Smotrich and Ben Gvir, as you were saying, because they think that the American imposed this truce between Hamas and Israel because of 2 reasons. A, that President Trump wanted to make sure that he is having the upper hand in the current situation on the ground. And also he wanted to give the upper hand of the Israelis, that they are able to create havoc in the West Bank. If you see what's happening in West Bank, you will be surprised that most of the Israeli settlers attacking Palestinians, where they're harvesting their olives, and then also they're confiscating their lands, they're threatening them, and many of them have been killed and injured on the eyes and under the protection of the Israeli army. So what does it give you an indication? That there will be another front open while the Gaza people continue to suffer. You need to at least 1,000 of trucks every day to meet the demands of 2.3 million people living in the open without any food, water, or name it, nothing there to survive. So how do you can cut because you want to put pressure on Hamas to release the dead bodies? So I think that is where we need to continue the international pressure on Israel to make sure that this have to be implemented in the true spirit.
Dr. Awad, there was plenty of international praise when this ceasefire first went into effect. And of course, when everyone was seeing those images of the people of Gaza suffering, there was plenty of international condemnation towards Israel. But since those strikes have stopped, the starvation continues. And as these trucks do trickle in, but very, very slowly, the international condemnation seems to have stopped. Do you think there should be more international pressure from the Muslim world, from Western governments, in order for this ceasefire to be adhered by properly?
Well, I think, Thomas, it's not that the West have stopped the condemnation. Look at the street in the capitals in the Western world. They are still demanding an end of these atrocities against the Palestinians, because what we are witnessing currently is that those who survived the onslaught for the last 2 years and 30 days is understanding very well that they may die because of starvation, famine, or they can die because of the, they have nothing to survive. And many of the people there are actually needing immediate help, especially people who have been legs, amputated hand, at the verge of their chronic diseases, are unable to meet. There is no hospital, there is nothing you can survive. So this is one part of the story of Israel Palestinian crisis is the humanitarian issue. You created the crisis where it be turning Gaza into unlivable. So it's very difficult for the people to survive. I think the pressure is to continue. Even Netanyahu, if as we speaking, the demonstration in Israel against Netanyahu government is exceeding the limits. And I'm sure if there will be an early election that Netanyahu will not survive, as the Israelis media is giving the indication. So I think the pressure is from within Israel. It should be mounted more on the current government, who is not even interested in seeing a two-state solution. When you wanted to annex the whole of West Bank, then you are saying there is no question of a viable Palestinian state. And also in Gaza, you continue to deny the Palestinians their survival tools. So how you wanted only the pressure should be limited to one certain country. I think even the United States, President Trump, while he was traveling to Qatar, he made a stoppage because he wanted to make sure that this ceasefire will continue. And at the same time, he wanted also to make sure that Kushner and his Rubio are also following the development inside Gaza. And America cannot be, isolated, or cannot be more isolated like Israel, because both of them, both U.S. and Israel, have been totally internationally isolated because of the ongoing onslaught on Gaza.
Okay, Dr. Awad, do stay with us. We have more coming out of Tel Aviv, where thousands of Israelis have taken to the streets in a powerful protest, demanding the return of the 13 Israeli hostages' bodies still being held by Hamas in Gaza. Protesters expressed the anguish of families waiting for their loved ones to come home. Let's listen in.
Yeah, so my family met Secretary Rubio today. It was important for us to meet him, look him in the eye, making sure that they are focused and eye on the ball, which is the remaining 13 hostages. He reassured us that there's nothing more important for his administration than to get the remaining hostages out, including 2 U.S. citizens. One of them is my son.
עיניו של מתן נשטפות דמעות שהוא נזכר שאיתי עדיין שם. בכל הזדמנות הוא אומר שהוא רוצה לעלות על מדים ולהחזיר אותו כי זה צורך קיומי עבורו. והצורך הקיומי של מתן הוא הצורך הקיומי של 13 משפחות שעדיין מחכות ליקיריהן שיחזרו. אז אנחנו לא עוצרים, אנחנו ממשיכים עד שכולם חוזרים.
This comes as a senior Hamas figure stated that the group had no interest in retaining the bodies of deceased hostages, but was facing challenges in recovering them. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reassured the grieving families that the U.S. is pressuring Hamas to recognize that the hostages are a liability and not an asset. Dr. Awad, of course, Hamas have now released all the living hostages. Some would say that is all their bargaining chips gone. However, some Israelis still believe that Hamas is holding those of the deceased as a psychological tool. What are these people protesting trying to achieve here?
Well, I think because of Netanyahu's government, everybody, even the opposition party in Israel, are also saying it openly now. Bennett have been saying that Israel has been totally isolated internationally because of Netanyahu's war on Gaza, because everybody says, and even the Israeli media, that Netanyahu went into this war for his own political survival, because there are lots of cases against him inside Israel. However, the topic of Hamas keeping the dead bodies and releasing the alive one, it shows also sort of an intention that Hamas is not interested in keeping anymore. They wanted to, they have already agreed in spirit and in terms of whatever terms and conditions that President Trump has put. So then they need to put an end to the suffering of the Palestinian. And that's what we are noticing. Look at the irony of the matter here. You're having 20 people. I'm sure everybody loved one wanted to have his, and we don't wish anybody bad bad things. But what I'm trying to explain here, you have 10,000 missing Palestinians underground who was unable to, their parent doesn't know anything. Israel does not allow the media to go and see the atrocities committed against the Palestinians. We only talk of the narrative of the Western world that we are talking of the remaining bodies of the Israelis with Hamas. Why nobody talk about the Palestinians? Why nobody talk about the 67,850 Palestinians have been killed? Why nobody talk about the 200,000 people already injured? More than 50% of them needing immediate medical. All these issues has to be addressed if seriously we wanted to address this problem of what's going on in West Asia. Look at the trends now. It is West Bank. Next is going to be Lebanon, because for the Israelis to take any bargaining chip from the United States, they will tell them, okay, you said Hamas ceasefire is done, but we are going toward Lebanon. And that is where you will see, and tomorrow you will come up with the next story of what's going in the front of Lebanon by Israel.
Dr. Awad, just very briefly, because we're running out of time, Marco Rubio was in Israel just yesterday, and he said that the US is pressing to Hamas to recognize that hostages are a liability and not an asset. Where does that say that the US stands in this?
Well, look, the United States is fully involved in the war on Gaza. Everybody knows that nothing can be done by the Israelis without the approval and by the Americans. Look at President Trump. You remember when he was delivering his speech in the Knesset, what he was saying, that Netanyahu was so clever that he asking for so much sophisticated weapon, and he used it very well. Is that the word of a president? And what do you expect from Rubio? He's nothing but he's the stooge of his own president. He's just echoing what he wants. So he's exactly doing what the Israeli wanted the American to do. And even Smotrich, he was saying that America is against his declaring that he wanted to annex the West Bank. And President Trump, he said the American will come on time and understand how it is important for Israel to annex the West Bank.
Yes, Dr. Wael Awad, do stay with us. We have further news updates.